Did you watch the season 3 finale of The Gilded Age? I did. Let's jump right in. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Adam Lee Henderson of the ALH brand, and for the last 2 months I have been doing reaction videos for The Gilded Age season 3, and I have enjoyed this process because I fell in love with the show even more. Season 3 came in swinging, you hear me? First and second season was amazing. First season was incredible. Second season picked up. Third season said, all right, we're here now. Here's my baseball. I'm about to swing. It really blessed me to see such diversity, such celebration, inclusion, relevant social conversations that usually happen today, being addressed in this show that took place in late 1800s. It was incredible. I cannot wait. The Gilded Age has been named to come back for a season 4, and I cannot wait. If at all possible, I would love to guest star on one of the episodes, like a small role, a couple lines here, you know what I mean? Like a small interaction with one of the main characters. You know, just something interesting. Like, allow me to join this show, and you know, even if I'm gonna reach for the stars, I might as well, you know, wish for big, right? I want a spot. Give me something. Give me a cousin of Dr. Kirkland, a little brother of Dr. Kirkland, or a friend of Dr. Kirkland. I mean, come on, help me out. Figure out something. Maybe a cousin of Peggy. I don't know. Put me in the show. Put me in, please. I love this show so much. And I'm an actor and I'm good. Well, I think I am. Where do I begin? I want to do like a deep dive of all of the characters. Let's start off with the Russells. I was shocked to see, not really shocked in a sense of Mrs. Russell and her behavior. This is based on the true story of the Vanderbilts. And when you look at this show, you're gonna notice the parallels between the Russells and the Vanderbilts and what they've done, right? So you knew that Gladys was going to get married, but it was just such an interesting way how they portrayed that dynamic of Mrs. Russell being ruthless, but ultimately you're drawn into how much she loves and cares for her kids, even if what her decisions and actions prove to be unorthodox and somewhat interesting in their eyes. Of course, in our eyes, we're like, oh, you know, she just really cares. I never saw her as the villain. I just saw her as this ruthless individual that would get her way. I always looked at Mrs. Astor as the villain of the show.
Well, at least we know where we stand.
But Mrs. Russell really had to navigate personal ambition versus family love. You know what I mean? So seeing her husband and her go through this kind of rift in their marriage, it blew me for a loop for a little bit, because I love marriage, I love love. And so I hate to see, you know, relationships fail, to see them go through this dynamic. And of course, in that time, I'm not going to say it was uncommon for women to leave marriages or leave relationships, but if women were divorced, especially in the social circle, you know, you were ostracized, and you know, that was frowned upon. And I think that was based on human culture, mindsets of the people, and you know, Mrs. Astor was one of those examples of holding the line with how you would ostracize people who were getting divorced. You know, the way she treated, I cannot remember her name, but the way she treated one of the other characters who were going through a divorce, and how distraught that character was with, you know, oh my gosh, I don't want you to leave. We could work on this marriage, you know what I mean? But he was already set in his ways. And so she's going through this dynamic. And, you know, if you're getting divorced, you would move to a place where you're not, I guess, in the social scene. I don't know what, to save face or to pretend and hide and tuck away as if what's going on is not real. But everybody knew, you know, it's gossip. But it was interesting because what Mrs. Astor built in culture, it came right back to her. You know what I mean? Reaping and sowing is a true philosophy. And so, though, as much as she reaped into the devastation of other people, the devastation came to her house with her own daughter going through her discretions. And so I thought that was pretty interesting to kind of go through that dynamic. And then by the end of the season, Mrs. Russell inviting all of these divorcees or separated individuals to her home for the closing ball, that really made a statement that, hey, we're all going to be an inclusive society here, you know? And so I thought like that testing the waters really put a stamp on Mrs. Russell. But mind you, Mrs. Russell still going through her own marital, woes. And then of course, I'm sure she doesn't want that to get out. And so, they try to, it's like royalty. That social life, they moved around like they were royal people. That's what's interesting about this. No, they were was just rich people. Rich don't make you royal, honey. I'm just saying. We're gonna put that conversation aside. But I really loved Gladys in the midst of her getting married. And it was funny because she was walking down that aisle, almost in tears, dreading the fact that she was getting married to a man she doesn't love or doesn't even know. And then seeing how the layers came off, the walls fell down, and then she started to feel something, and she started to, love this man because this man protected her, stuck up for her, moved mountains for her. And so we're thankful for the Duke, being able to, be just a rock and anchor for Gladys. And I don't think she's accustomed to that. She's accustomed to her father being a strong guy, but in a sense, you think of Mr. Russell as this, tycoon, this workaholic who is building an empire, and he's all about his business. You know what I mean? So I'm sure he was a present father, but I can assume, based on observation from the show, that work came first. Money was a priority, and maintaining that money was a priority. But it was such a great thing to see her in real time fall from, disgust almost to in love with this man, and then revealing that she's pregnant. That's the cliffhanger for season 3 as it ends. You know what I mean? Well, the huge cliffhanger is the fact that Mrs. Russell and Mr. Russell are like, we don't know if they're gonna split up. And you would think that they would have got back together when he got shot. That's what I predicted. Okay, something traumatic is gonna happen that's gonna bring them together. Lo and behold, he gets shot. That's traumatic. He almost dies. You think they're coming back together, but then he decides at the end of the season, oh, I'm walking away. And in just a second after that, Gladys announced she's pregnant. Ooh, baby, that's crazy. But I think it was really interesting. Let's talk about this. Mrs. Van Ryn and seeing her son and realizing that her son is a homosexual. You can see the revelation in her eyes, in the face, the stoic face of stern and firmness as she's staring at Mr. Van Ryn, and she's realizing, oh my God, he was in love with this man, and they were something more than just friends and businessmen. But instead of, as opinionated as she is, instead of addressing it, she decides silence is her way out. She doesn't address it. She doesn't say anything. Of course, I can assume that was very common in that day. Conservative these socialites are. Not even, this is not a religious thing. It's just conservatism. How they present themselves, think, feel, how things should be. It has nothing to do with religious theology. It has everything to do with social construct. Jumping into Mrs. Forte, I loved seeing her deal with this grief, but also deal with the empowerment of now becoming the head of the household. And Mrs. Van Ryn kind of, Ada and Agnes, they have this interesting relationship. They're sisters. They're not going to go anywhere. They're not going to split up. But you see how, you know, they changed the dynamic of that friendship and or position of the household. And it was just a beautiful thing to see cooperation in that scene and in that dynamic. I loved it. Marian and Larry, poor thing. You knew there was something there since season one, and you were rooting for them. And then she was going through these, you know, different situations that, you know, she almost got married in certain moments, but it never worked out. And so you always had hope that her and Larry Russell would get together. And so they finally get together. It's so beautiful. At the beginning of the season, they try to keep a hush hush and slow walk through this thing. And it was, you know, it was real cute.
Will you marry me?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But then because of his dishonesty and her misunderstanding, it kind of tarnishes that relationship, you know. And I thought that was devastating, because I was like, oh, this is it. I'm rooting for them. Like, this is going to be like the happy ending, because you always want there to be a happy ending for at least one of the characters. Honestly, I think that happy ending happened with Agnes and Ada, and just their dynamic. And I thought that was just a beautiful happy ending. But for Larry and Marian, it's like, maybe they will reconcile for season 4. You know, they left season 3 with, you know, she realizes how she was acting or thinking was incorrect, and she wanted to reconcile. And now he's hurt and tarnished by that. And, you know, I think he's kind of like being just like Mr. Russell, turning his face and being firm in that. And so I'm hoping that they circle back around. But it was cool to see Mrs. Russell, you know, Bertha realized, you know, Marian is a round-away girl. Like, she's the real deal. And that happened because of how she jumped in to supporting with saving Mr. Russell after he got shot. So seeing her in that light, I think Bertha Russell was like, oh my God, you're the real deal. The way you jumped in and the way you would get your hands dirty for someone else, it's a beautiful thing. And I love that. Because you know how Bertha Russell is. Like, she's very selective, and you know how she is with, you know, her children and who they marry and date or who they align themselves with. Let's jump right into my predictions. Season 4 is coming back. Prediction number 1, that Adam Lee Henderson is going to be offered a position and role on this show. I'm going to meet someone and I'm going to be on this show as a friend of one of the characters. Period. No, I'm just serious. Prediction number 2. Mr. Russell and Mrs. Russell are going to have a very, very, you know, tumultuous fight throughout the season. And she's going to fight for the marriage. You know, he's going to have an issue with her in this fight. But I eventually think, and if it's based on a true story, I don't know the story of the Vanderbilts, but I hope, for the sake of writing and the love of this show, that by the end of season 4, they will come back together and they will reconcile. I truly believe, and this is my prediction number 3, that Larry and Marian will reconcile and get married. I truly believe that. Prediction number 4 is that this Mr. Van Ryn and that Lavender marriage situation, I don't think that's going to go well. Like, that's going to be chaotic. And I'm really interested in seeing how this plays out with Aunt Agnes. Oh, she's going to have a fit. And I hope she does. I hope she goes kicking and screaming. The hero of the story for this season 3, like, not necessarily the hero, but the triumphant win of the footman. I forgot his name. What was his name? Jonathan? Or no, I'm probably making that up. But I see him in season 4 becoming larger and larger. I want him to invent something else cool, and I want him to continue to, you know, become more successful. in his endeavors. And I would love for him to, become entangled with one of the maids, and they become status. And so I hope they rise to the occasion and just start this new storyline. I think that would be really cool. I can't wait for season 4 to come out. Well, the only downside for this is that it's going to take so long. Oh, we're probably going to have to wait, almost a year, unless they jump right in and start filming for season 4, which I hope they do, that it comes out by the spring or early summer. Let's hope that they jump in and just start flowing, and then we get season 5 and get season 6, and just keep going until, maybe we can get about a good 7 seasons out of this show. I'm hoping for 7. I'll be satisfied with 6, but I'm hoping for 7.